Welcome, everyone. I am Vander Gack, Northeast Sayres communications person. This is our first partnership grant Q&A session for the 2026 Partnership Grant Program. Uh, the call is currently open. Proposals are due by 5 p.m. on April 14th. This session is going to be recorded and will be made available on our website along with all the questions and answers. And we're going to be having these sessions throughout the month in case you have any follow-ups. Hopefully, you've had a chance to review the call for proposals and maybe even hop over to projects.stair.org either to look at other projects in the projects database or to create your account because that's where you'll be submitting your grant proposal. So, a quick rundown of what we're going to do today. We're going to start with a brief presentation from our grant administrator about the program, and then we're going to open it up into questions. You can raise your hand. You can drop questions in the chat. Feel free to add on follow-up questions if you have a follow-up question to someone else's questions. This is a space for making everyone better at writing Northeast Air partnership grant proposals. And we really appreciate you bringing your curiosity. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over now to Candace.
Hi, everyone. Let's see. Can you see my screen now? Great. Let me minimize this page. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Just grab my sheet. Thanks, Vander, for getting this set up. And we have Emma Marks here today who will be taking some notes too and can always answer questions if I fall off the map here with Zoom. You never know. I'm Candace Huber. I manage the Partnership Grant Program. I've been with Northeast Sayre for 20 odd years and through various parts of the organization. And I'm happy to be offering the Partnership Grant Program again this year. It's been 2 years since we were able to offer it and 2 years prior to that. So we're hoping to get back on schedule now. I anticipate and I hope that we'll be able to offer this on a yearly basis again. So I'm going to explain the basics of the Partnership Grant Program, and then I'll take questions. And if there are no specific questions, there's a lot of things I can talk about. But as you know, we are currently accepting proposals for the Northeast Sayre Partnership Grant Program. And the due date for that is April 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Very important that you get everything submitted by that deadline because the system shuts everything off right at 5 p.m. So don't leave it till the last minute in case there's some technical glitches or something. I will be available until 5 p.m. and shortly after, but I may have a lot of people contacting me, so you don't want to rely on that. So SARE stands for Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, and it's a federally funded program through the USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And there are 4 regions, and we're the Northeast, serving these 12 states and the District of Columbia. And the Partnership Grant Program is one of 6 competitive programs that we have. So the first criteria is that you need to be in the Northeast region. Your project needs to be in the Northeast region. Now, just a few basics about the Partnership Grant Program. If you're someone who works with farmers and have a farmer that you can partner with on the project, then you're eligible to apply. The projects should seek new knowledge that farmers can use and address questions that improve the sustainability of farms. The maximum amount of funds you can request is $30,000. You will need to put together a detailed budget, and it's important to note that funds are paid on a reimbursement basis. So your organization will need to be able to manage the expenses upfront. Projects typically last between 1 to 2 years, but the absolute maximum for a project is 3 years. Applicants can only submit 1 partnership proposal per year, and you can apply to other grant programs. The instructions and the call for proposal can be found on our website. Hopefully, as Vander mentioned, you've had a chance to look at that so that you could bring your questions to us today. So the main goal of our program is to help farmers in the region. So for your proposal to be competitive, you want to demonstrate that your project will benefit sustainable agriculture. And you can use our outcome statement to guide that. And that is, Northeast agricultural communities honor the holistic connection among land, water, air, and all living beings. Agriculture in the Northeast is sustainable so that all farmers and farm employees can steward resources to ensure sustainability, resilience, economic viability, and a high quality of life. We also have our legislative priorities. So you'll want to address in the proposal your legislative priorities. And all this is in the call for proposals, just so you know. So the legislative priorities are soil health, conservation of natural resources, water quality, farmer health and safety and quality of life, livestock health, and farm labor. We also look for farmer impact. Projects having a significant impact or impression on farmers and farming communities is also critical. Impact can be economic, social, environmental. For example, how does the research support the farmers' livelihoods? How does the research build strong economies? How does the research improve crop production? That's the kind of impact we're looking for. And also for impact, replicability is important. Replicability here is the ability of another farmer or farming community to obtain similar results when applying the same methods. In other words, another farmer can utilize the results of the research to benefit their own farming practices or behavior. And then we're also looking for innovation in these projects. Innovation is defined as the development of adoption of new concepts or ideas. So innovation can also be the development and implementation of novel and effective solutions to meet social and environmental challenges. So within the scope of Northeast SARE, examples of innovation can include an introduction to a new practice that farmers are not yet familiar with. So it doesn't have to be a new practice to anybody, but to the farmers that you're working with. That would make it innovative. So again, and it could be an improved or better behavior practice. And or it could be the opening of a new market that hasn't been previously entered. So again, whether or not it has existed previously, it could just be new to that location or area or region or to that commodity or practice. The opening of a new market could be innovative if it hasn't been previously entered. I just said that. Sorry. And a new source of supply of materials or goods would be an innovative thing. An improved organizational structure or capacity. That could also be just an improved way to do business. So the bottom line is that innovation doesn't mean something never tried before anywhere. It just has to be a solution addressing a specific challenge the farmers you're working with are facing. So one more thing I want to address before I start taking questions is eligibility, because that often is a big thing that people have questions about. So in order to be eligible, you need to be an agricultural service provider in the Northeast region, and your organization must have the capacity to manage a grant. As I said before, the funds are provided on a reimbursement basis. So the organization, which is the contracting, the UVM will contract with your organization, needs to be able to pay up for the expenses up front. And when you submit an invoice to SARE, it can take up to 30 days to get payment. So the cash flow is important. You could be anybody, you could work from any of these organizations, nonprofits, extension, universities, for-profit businesses. You can be a consultant. You could work for a municipality, the Department of Agriculture. Even federal employees are eligible to apply for this grant. Now, I did say one application per person per year, but if you have two different people in your organization who want to do projects, it's not per organization, it's per person. So those both would be eligible. And And as I said, you must have a farmer partner, and that's a farmer at a commercial operation with an established farm income of at least $1,000 per year. That's our definition of a farm based on the USDA definition. Now, I say here, you may duplicate research on a farm. What that means is if you are with an organization that has a farm, maybe like a university has a research farm on it, you can do research on that farm for this project, but you also have to have a farmer partner that is not that farm. So you can duplicate the research, but that can't be your farmer partner. You actually have to. The idea is to expand your circle a bit so that you can get different perspectives and really make sure that you're in touch with what the farmers on the ground need. And the farmer partner should have experience in the topic area, be located in the Northeast, and they will have to submit a letter of commitment, which will just explain their qualifications, a little bit about their farm, and what their role in the project will be, and so that it's clear that they understand what their commitment will be, time-wise and effort-wise, and all that. Also, as far as topics that are eligible, really wide range of topics. I mean, we accept all types and scales of farm and farming. You could be farming on a large or small scale with conventional or organic practices, urban or rural, full or part-time, all eligible. The topics, as I said, are wide ranging, and these are just some examples of those topics. And let's see, I think that's all I have for now. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions to get started with, we can jump right into those, or I can go on to explain a few more things about the program. And you can put your message in the chat. Vander and Emma will help me see those because it's hard for me to look at everything while I'm talking at the same time. Or you can raise your hand, or if I'm not seeing you, just pipe right up. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. That's okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, Eric, hi.
Hi. Thank you for the information. Appreciate it. I'm a newbie. I'm essentially a consultant that's working with two different farms. And one's in Maryland, one's in Pennsylvania. They're in the same physiographic region, same soils. I'm looking at this as like a regional kind of learning opportunity. And now I'm looking at the one applicant per year thing. And I was going into this call going, well, can I submit two versus one application? And I think you just answered that question. So now I guess I'm forced down the road of regional kind of learning opportunity. I'm just sort of looking to see if I'm looking to do like a shared question, different systems sort of approach. Is that within scope across multiple states, even though they're in the same region? And does that see that I guess the other related question is, does the addition of a second location complicate things from a reviewer perspective, or do you like to see comparisons like that? And is a farm to farm comparison good enough, or do we still need like a control group or something to really kind of hammer home the learnings? Thanks, that was a lot.
That was a lot, but I think I can answer you. So what I didn't say was you don't need to have just one farmer partner. You can have several farmer partners. Now, I'm not really clear. Are you a farm owner, or
no? I'm going to be I'll be the applicant. I'm the consultant applicant for both of the farmers.
Excellent. Yeah. So the question about a second location, it really totally depends on your project. Like if it's that of value to have that second location, especially if it's in the region, reviewers won't question it. Reviewers will appreciate, if you have the type of question that needs like different microclimates or different, soils or different things, then that's a great way to go about doing that. The other thing I was going to say is as far as the control goes, uh, that's again all part of the experimental design. It would depend on what you're comparing, what results you're looking for, what kind of data you're collecting,
Fine.
and you will need to determine yourself if it needs a control or not. Unfortunately, I can't
That's
answer
fine.
that.
That's fine. That's fine. I noticed you have multiple sessions. I'll probably come
Yes,
back and have many more questions, but just sort of fishing for now. Thank
yes,
you. Much appreciate it.
absolutely. And anybody, please feel free to reach out to me directly too. Sometimes people aren't comfortable discussing their ideas in a public setting, which is totally fine. All the proposals are confidential, and we don't share anybody's ideas or anything if we've been talking with them. Um, and all the proposals are confidential until they're awarded. At that point is when they become public information. So feel free to contact me directly if you want to talk something through specifically. Let's see. I saw some questions come by in the chat. Let me typically, what amount of are the awards given? Well, so the cap is $30,000, and I think again, we've only done this program once in the last 4 years, so things could have changed. Everything's changing by the minute, but the typically people do ask for like that 25 to 30 range, $30,000 range. Really, because it's not really. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money for getting something done. So typically people do need the higher amount. But we certainly get projects for as low as, I mean, $2,000 or $3,000. But we really want to encourage you, if you're going to put in a proposal, really get all your expenses, including your own labor. A lot of times people forget to put in their own labor, and definitely pay the farmer partner. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is make sure you're asking for all expenses for the project when you do submit your budget. But reviewers are not basing any judgment on whether or not you're asking for a lot or a little. It's all what you're asking for that amount of money. So that's what's important. Would you expound on the topic of renewal of the grant or applying? I've got like an emoji thing right in front of that word, applying for a grant in the following years to continue the same work. So if you have a project that is, and a lot of people run into this when they're working with perennials or like carbon sequestration or soil health, sometimes 2 years is not enough to be able to see any results. But we do need for you to bring it into a specific goal for this project. Even though if it's something that is going to be looking at long-term effects, you need to break it down so that this particular project can stand on its own regardless. Now, we do love building on previous awards, and we love all the interconnections between this and other grant programs. So we encourage you to, if you need further funds for your work that you're doing, it's really important, one, that you are on top of all your reporting, because we won't fund a project from somebody who has outstanding reports for us. And also, you want to make sure that you're not relying on something else, because so reviewers will want to feel assured that you will be able to move forward with the project regardless of what happens elsewhere. Like if you're in the middle of a project and you want to get further funds, but you don't have the results of the first project yet, reviewers might be like, well, this might not even get to this point, and so it might not then score very high. But you certainly are eligible. And again, we certainly do love to see these little projects turn into big things and how it can ripple through the agricultural community. That's our goal. Would a research survey project to assess farmer needs in the region, vis-a-vis connecting them with this is driving me nuts, this chat. It keeps blocking my. Okay. Would a research to assess farmer needs in the region vis-a-vis connecting them with the emergency food network to be eligible? Be eligible. A research survey project connecting them with Emergency Food Network. Yes, that you would it would be eligible. You would really want to tie in the impact it would have on farmers, not just the people it would be serving. And uh, yeah, it definitely would be eligible. What I'm thinking about is a lot of times these partnership grants can be a great like seed projects for figuring out what the next step is. Um, so yes, that would definitely be eligible. I own a plant nursery and would like to work with a farmer to study crop production variety trial. Would I qualify? Okay, so if you own a plant nursery, but you're not growing the plants, you're just selling the plants. Well, even if you are, in that case, you're selling plants to farmers. I imagine it's not just in, little garden store. You're selling plants to farmers. Then you would qualify as an agricultural service provider because I'm sure in that role you're giving advice on what to do with those plants. So you would qualify. Again, remember that all the fun expenses, the financial, all the management, the contracting would all go through your nursery. Question: can business outside of Northeast apply for Northeast grants if they have a partner farmer in the Northeast? Good question. Yes, you can. We've had several projects with where the project leader and organization are outside of the Northeast region, but they work with farmer or farmers in the Northeast. And that's perfectly acceptable. We're hoping to apply with our ag service provider. We are the farmer partner. Our organization is nonprofit and we don't have commercial sales. Are we still eligible? Deborah. That seems like that might be a conversation we need to have because you don't have. I would just want to hear more about your farm to understand if have any income from the farm, or if you're not selling anything from your farm, you wouldn't be considered a farm for our purposes for a farmer partner. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't get another farm or the ag service provider could get another farm involved that would cover that requirement, and then they could work with you as well. Deborah, if you have further questions about that, why don't you contact me? You can shoot me an email, and I don't have my PowerPoint up anymore on my screen, but I think that my email address is there. Can you go over when 2 applications are okay? How about same farmer, 2 projects? Same farmer, 2 projects. Got it. So the farmer can be partner on more than one project. Yes. So that's the farmer. But the applicant, who's the project leader, the ag service provider, can only apply with one project, just one application. But if you're going to be a farmer partner, you can be the farmer partner on more than one project. Can you talk a little bit more about what it takes to ask for the maximum amount and or asking for a 3-year project period? Well, and perfectly reasonable to ask for $30,000 for 3 years. Many people do go for the $30,000, and sometimes that's not even enough for them, but they have figured out a budget where it can work and they can provide the balance. If you do have that kind of situation, this may be outside of what you're asking, but while I'm thinking of it, it's important for you to note, like if the project clearly is going to require more resources than what you're asking for, it's important for you to explain in the proposal, and there's a couple of places you can do it, but if you get it in there, that's great anywhere. Where those other resources are coming from, because again, it goes back to reviewers having confidence that you're going to be able to complete the project. The 3-year project period. So our grants are, what happens is the University of Vermont gets a big pool of money, not actual money, because again, it's all on reimbursement stuff, but gets an allocated amount of money from USDA NEFA, and then we subaward it out to all of our grants. And the so the funds are based on a specific 5-year agreement we have with the USDA NIFA. And so by the time we get the funds, we get the commitment from them, and then we can process it all. And then to allow time to close out that whole thing at the end, we are limited to actually, it's like, well, yeah, it's 3 years, 3 years and a couple of months, November. And so if you ask for a 3-year project, you just have to be sure you can get it done in 3 years because we can't extend it past that. Whereas if you have a 1 to 2 year project, something comes up, there's a drought, or you have God forbid, something, maybe a health issue or something, or any reason, you all know that things come up. Then there will be no leeway. If you're already at the 3-year mark, there will be no leeway for an extension. Whereas if you have a 1 to 2 year project, you could ask for an extension. I hope if you have any other, Alicia, if that wasn't answering it, I'll just put it in the chat. Lori, we've had farmers reach out to ask about working with us on demonstration research project. Can you share if there is a preference to research or demonstration? And is it okay to work with one farmer partner, but then invite other farmers to see and learn results? Yes, 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 yes. You can, there is no preference to research or demonstration. Both of those are totally acceptable for partnership grants. If you're doing a research project, it's straightforward, it's typical research design, but it could be social science research. So you could have a lot of qualitative research, or quantitative research, or if you want, you could do it. My advice is actually keep it simple. Just keep it all very simple. But if you want to do a demonstration project, that's also great. So like the audience that you're presenting this information to will have a need for it in some way. Maybe nobody's brought it there before or something like that. So you want to demonstrate that need. And then the demonstration project, you'll want to also, you'll probably be putting together some sort of agenda or curriculum or something like that. And that's the kind of thing that could be useful to other ag service providers to be able to help farmers. So there's the replicability thing. So as long as you're like addressing all the things like the legislative priorities and all the criteria and the proposal, the outcome statement, it's totally, demonstration, education, research, all good. And definitely, as I said, you can work with one farmer partner or more, and they would be considered your like research partners. But outreach is a really important part of the partnership grants. And I probably should probably add that to the basics. But you are required to do some outreach from your project. So that's sharing the results or sharing information about the challenge that you're addressing, or collecting information about the challenge that you're addressing, or how you're approaching it. Any sort of guide or workshop or webinar or video, that's all outreach that can help other farmers learn from your project. And that is a very important part. So reviewers really like to see a strong outreach plan for these, and get a little specific too, say like, oh, I'm going to go to the New England Veg and Berry Conference and present the results of this conference in January of 28 or whatever. So really do put some effort into that outreach portion. Eric, do you have rules of thumb guidance on what you consider a credible soil health trial or what you consider strong outreach? So this soil health trial, again, it's like very, I couldn't give any guidance on that, except for it needs to be realistic, and it needs to be produce valid results. So reviewers are going to be looking at your experimental design. If you're doing a soil health trial, they're going to be looking at your experimental design to see if it can provide you with the results that you need. And I'm not saying like a positive or negative result, but like with that, it will be able to give you the data that you need and be enough to be a valid to provide valid conclusions. So that's like a statistician. If you need to, if you're wondering if your trial is enough, if you have enough sample size, sample plots or whatever, you could consult with a statistician or somebody who is in research. And reviewers love to see you collaborate with other people to do these things. Like, so if you're not an expert in statistics or experimental design, but you want to do this soil health trial, you consult with a statistician and they say you'll need this many of this or this many of that in order for the results to be valid. Then you can put that in your proposal that you consulted with so-and-so on the design, or that you have access to this person for advice, like if something comes up. Reviewers love to see that. We don't require you to have any sort of technical advisor for the partnership grants. We do for the farmer grants for the same reasons. But as an agricultural service provider, a lot of you may already have that expertise. And then what you consider strong outreach. Again, I think I may have just answered that, and Emma did put in a little document we have that's how to conduct research on your farm or ranch. And that's in the chat, the link to that. And so strong outreach is publications, videos, guidebooks, curriculum, fact sheets, even consultations are outreach, of course, workshops and demonstrations and presentations. You can do journal publications are great. Those kind of take a while sometimes, but they're perfectly acceptable forms of outreach and good. Sometimes your target audience may be more academic than not, so you could go to academic research because you want to share the results and do the outreach to farmers, but also to other ag service providers and researchers so that they can share it with farmers, or even for researchers to take your information and use it as, just expanding their knowledge base and being able to move forward with further research.
Great. So it sounds like if you partner with your local extension on all of this stuff, it sounds like you're embedding kind of good outreach and the network or the infrastructure to be able to do that readily. So great.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good stuff.
But I will caution you to just not to say we're going to partner with, or whoever, just using that as an example, but partner with Extension for our outreach. It's important for you to actually then say we're going to these fact sheets, a whole free workshops at the farmer's farm, and so it's important to get down to the details of it, not just slough it off on somebody else, because unless they have a plan they can give you that you can include in your proposal. I hope that helps. All right. I cannot see the Zoom thing at all, so I'm just hoping that I haven't disconnected, and it doesn't look that I have. Let's see. How would you explain main differences between farmer grants and partnership grants? Yes, that's a great question, because I did reach out. We recently had the farmer grant deadline or review, and there were many proposals. We actually had a lot of applications, way more than we anticipated, and way more than we could fund. A lot of them were really quite good, and sometimes just by changing the project leader and having the farmer be the farmer partner instead of the applicant, it could easily change into a partnership grant from a farmer grant. So I did reach out to partnership grant applicants who were not successful this round, and just suggested that. And so I don't know if any of you are here as a result of that, besides maybe this person, but so the difference between, I have a little list here. I just want to bring it up so that I don't forget something. Okay, so first, the biggest difference is that eligibility. The project leader needs to be an agricultural service provider, not the farmer. The you can use the same topics, and you're going to be asked the same like things about the project itself, like objectives, methods, and the outreach and all that, basically is the same. But so the differences are really in the eligibility. You can work with the farmer, instead of being the applicant, could be the farmer partner. And as I said, the ag service provider would be the applicant and manage all the aspects of the award. So the contracting would go through the project leader, who in this case would be the ag service provider for the partnership grants, and not through it for farmer grants. All the management, including the billing, sending in the invoices, managing the money, fronting the money, before you get reimbursed. That would all, as a farmer grant, that all goes through the farm. With a partnership grant, all of our grants, the applicant is the awardee. So then with the the partnership grant, sorry, the contracting would be with the ag service providers organization, and they would manage all of that. So as a farmer, if you're the farmer partner, you can still do all the work on the grant and have input into the grant, as long as the ag service provider is willing to work with you in that capacity, and get paid. They can put that into their budget for your work on the grant, but not have to do the icky stuff, which I think that sounds like a better deal. But you do relinquish some control over the project. Or you do relinquish all of your control over the project, pretty much. But that's really the main difference, is the eligibility requirement. Because right now they're the same cap of $30,000. Let's see. Oh, I am not keeping up with these. Trying to go back to where I was. Considering Tom. Okay, Tom, it looks like Vander answered your question, so I'm not going to go there because I didn't actually, looks pretty specific. If you have further questions on that, you can contact me directly. Laura, NOFAMAS has applied for, oh yeah. So you could apply to the partnership grant at the same time as your professional development grant, which you have not heard, I'm sure, yet. Those are still in the process of review, but you can apply to the partnership program. But if it's for the same project, you will need to withdraw it if you get funded through the professional development grant. Interested in creating a regional seed co-op? Is purchasing harvesting equipment allowed? Yes, if it is necessary for the project, equipment is allowed. We prefer that you rent it if you can, but sometimes renting is not a feasible option. So purchasing is allowed. It needs to be unique to the project. In creating a regional seed co-op, you'd need to explain like where that equipment's going to live and who's going to take, where is it going to be after the project is done, as far as like who's going to be running this co-op, and how it will be used in perpetuity, basically. Like, so if the equipment will go to this regional seed co-op, if it'll be a different entity than the organization that you have. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, equipment is allowed. Yes. When do labor reimbursements happen? Yeah. Vander answered that. Typically, all reimbursements, if you have labor reimbursements, you do need to, all of our reimbursements are based on you making the payment and then sending the invoice to our financial team, who processes it. And as Vander says, it takes a net 30 for that, but they do try to go more quickly if possible. And so reimbursement can happen monthly. It's up to you to send those invoices in monthly. we less than monthly is not really efficient. And we do encourage monthly, and we encourage at least quarterly, unless you're at a period, it's over winter or something, and you're not having any expenses. But we do appreciate it if you stay on top of your invoices, and so we can get the money to you as quickly as possible. Oh, I must have missed those when I was looking. Yeah, so Alicia asked if we would award less than the requested amount. And reviewers look at the proposal and the budget that is submitted. And if they are, some of their feedback may be, this project would be stronger if we were just funding X portion of it for such and such amount. And that would be feedback you would get. We do provide feedback to all unsuccessful applicants. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes a couple months, but we try to get that to you as soon as possible so that you can apply again or apply somewhere else if you want. You'll have the feedback to improve your proposal. But we do encourage you to, in that case, we would encourage you to apply again next year for this smaller amount to focus on X, Y, or Z, that kind of thing. But we would not, very, very rarely. Actually, I don't think we've ever done it in one of these smaller grants. Rarely in like a larger grant, we have several larger grants: research and education, professional development, farming communities, and novel approaches. And in the past, there have been some instances where they've awarded less, but that's very rare. And for the smaller grants, reviewers would not award that, but they would suggest that you would apply again the next year. Can we get one farmer partner now and have? Yes, you can. You can put it would be you do definitely need one farmer partner at the time of your proposal. You can, if like your project may say, part of your project might be to identify the farmers that you need to work with, the dairy farms that have X number of cows, da, 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 da. So that could be part of your project. And reviewers will want to know how you're going to recruit those people if they're necessary. And because they'll want to have some, again, confidence that you're going to be able to get these other farmer partners on board. And then if you do get awarded, when the time comes, you will need to let us know who those farmer partners are before you can pay them anything off of the grant funds. Okay, there's Eric's question that I somehow jumped to ahead of. I'm sorry if I'm missing anything. I hope Vander, Emma, you might notice.
We're watching. You're doing great.
Okay. I have the chat screen taking up my full monitor now, and it's like I can't see anything else anyway. Do you recommend having, oh wait, sorry. I explained the differences between the farmer grants and the partnership. Do you recommend having an extension partner or input from a local ag agency? Is that a common approach? I wouldn't say it's common, because most of the times ag service providers have what an extension partner or local ag agency could provide. But that being said, again, reviewers love to see you collaborate. And if there's an area that you need that you don't have particular expertise in, then it has to do with your project, reviewers would much rather see you collaborate with somebody to tackle that, rather than just trying to just figure it out on your own. So collaboration is great. If you have a collaborator who is going to be doing something significant on the project, you do need to get a letter of commitment from them if they're going to be written into the proposal to provide X, Y, or Z. But I said it wasn't common, but I would actually take that back and say collaborators, great. You use them as you need to, and reviewers do like to see expertise being brought in for certain things. Laura, that is our situation, but we are the nonprofit. Not exactly sure what that's referring to. So if you have a further question on that, let me know. Does the applicant organization need to have a current SAM registration account? Yes, if you're not a sole proprietor, you will need to have you will be receiving a subaward contract from us that does require you to have the SAM registration. Yes, and as Emma said, you don't need it to apply, but if you are selected for award, you may need to create one. And that can take a little time sometimes. So if you're going to be applying for grants, more than just this one, I would recommend doing that. You do have to keep it active. I think that's every couple of years you have to just submit some paperwork or something. But before we can actually do the contract with you, we will need to have you set up with a SAM registration. For those who don't know, that's the UVM government. I'm forgetting what SAM stands for, but it's the government basically database of people they're paying, and it provides some information about that organization when people look it up. And so I'm not really sure, but it's a transparency thing, but it's also a way for the government to just know that you're meeting certain requirements. I don't know what they are. It's not, I have never heard of anybody having trouble being able to get one. It's just sometimes it's a little time consuming to just deal with it. Can the farmer be funded by a farmer grant and work on a partnership grant? Yes, if you have a farmer grant, you're perfectly eligible to be a farmer partner on a partnership grant. And we don't look at the farmer partners as far as the eligibility of the program or of the applicant, in the sense that we don't look to see if you're up to date on your reporting or that sort of stuff. It's separate, and if the topics overlap at all, there could be some great collaboration there too. So that would be fine. Could be good. Yes, and Emma pointed out that you can't ask for funds for the same activities that you would that you've asked for the previous grant. Jesse, should all farm partners and outreach program participants be Northeast based? We're thinking of a project that would involve about 30 farms and just want to dial in any hard geographic boundaries. So the farm partners, yes, should be within the Northeast region, which is all the way down to DC, Maryland, West Virginia, and over to Pennsylvania, New York, and then up through New England. But the outreach and program participants don't have to be Northeast based. You can go to national conferences and present your results. But reviewers love to see things get out there and do, but we do want to make sure that it will be available. The results will be available to farmers in the Northeast and in a way that can help them use it. And if you want to partner with somebody on an outreach that's outside of the Northeast region, that's fine too, as long as the participants in that outreach activity can be from the Northeast. For researchers based at universities, is a partnership grant usually after accounting for the high indirect costs? That's a question for your grants office, your sponsored programs office. Some actually, yeah, I don't know. I think some do have guidance for that sort of stuff. We do provide indirect for for everybody except for sole proprietors wouldn't be eligible for indirect, but indirect from a federal project from our projects is 10% of direct costs, whereas your negotiated rate with the federal government might be something much higher, but the maximum we can provide is 10%. And so some people don't think it's worthwhile for such low indirect costs. So that would definitely be a question for your university. And the IRB process, for those who don't know, I think it's an internal review board, but it's for looking at projects with human subjects that to make sure that welfare precautions and safeties are in place. And so that's the IRB review process. And it can start after the funding announcement arrives, and before the project starts is good, but I just want to clarify, you can start with the project, but you can't pay for any research activities. Like if you need to order some equipment or, do some preliminary, outreach or something, you can do that while you're waiting for your IRB to come through. But you can't, we'd send you some extra paperwork or something says that you understand you can't request this research, any funds for research until we get that. So yes, you can wait until after the project is awarded before initiating that IRB review process if you would like, but it does take some time at a lot of places. Do all reports from these grants get loaded on the National SARE database? And Emma replied, yes. And that's just to clarify, that's all the awarded projects. Again, your proposal is confidential. What qualifies as a service provider? I teach an ag class at the local university under my farm name and do consulting that way. Yes. Yes, if you do consulting, then you're definitely an ag service provider. And you could work with another farm as your farm partner. Can a Midwest laboratory service provider be paid from grant funds? Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. You can use services from outside of the region and pay them off of the grant. Let's see. Any other questions? We're getting down in time, but I think I caught everything that was in the chat. Let me know if anybody has something or needs further clarification on anything. We are having these, as Vander said, we're having these Q&A sessions every Tuesday for for 4 weeks. So this is the first one, and then we've got one again on the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st. And then it's 2 weeks until the deadline. So we hope that by then, if you have any further questions, you can contact me directly because we'll need to get you the answer ASAP, I'm sure. I think all of our contact information is here on this presentation, but also anytime you can go to the website, go to the check out our partnership grant page on the website. It's got more information and it's got the links to, you're going to need the budget spreadsheet template, which you'll use to create your budget. It walks you right through it all, but it's just important to make sure that you're thinking of everything that you need. And that budget should align with your plan of work. So if you go through your plan of work, and really just figure out where you're going to need time. We do ask for a timeline too, and that's a great way also to get a good sense of how much time you're going to need on the project, as well as other people working with you. So you're going to need that budget spreadsheet template, and you're also going to need the grant commitment form, which everybody needs to fill out, that just acknowledges that your organization understands that you are doing this and that they are on board with managing or being responsible basically for the grant. They would be the contracting organization. So all that you can get right from our website, and it's all in the call for, everything's in the call for proposals. I know it's long, it's a big document, and then you add in all the appendices. There's a lot of pages there, but really I just encourage you to keep your projects simple, focused, and just follow the prompts in the call for proposals, and you should be good. Any other questions? Or I'm trying to think what else I could quickly touch on. We do also provide the Word version of the call for proposals. So some people like to work on it offline. So you could just download that and then you could go right to where the questions are, the prompts in the call for proposals and do your answers there. There are word counts for each answer that you need to follow. If you exceed them, the system will simply cut it off at the maximum amount of words. So you want to be sure that you're not going over that because so when you develop your responses to the questions in the call for proposals, you want to pay attention to that word count, especially if you're cutting and pasting from one application into the submission system, because it won't. I think you will know, like the system will kind of like show a red message that will tell you that you've gone over the word count, but if you don't notice that, you might be missing some of your response. So you really want to make sure you pay attention to those word counts. And in the proposal, we do have in the call for proposals, we do have a basic table that explains expenses that are allowed and what's not allowed. And then we have an Appendix C that is a much longer document, has a table of contents, so you can look up the specific thing that you're looking for, but a lot more detail there about the budget, what's allowed, what's not allowed. So I encourage you to look at that. I know budgets are sometimes a big deal. Sometimes people can pass it to their sponsored programs office to take care of, but we try to make it as simple as possible, but I think that's a pipe dream. It's just a complicated thing. Collaborators, we can all ask for collaborators to be paid.
Candace, do you want to talk about the scoring rubric?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a great one. Quickly, I can talk about the scoring rubric. So in the proposal, there are the proposal questions. And we also, in the appendix, we have a link to our proposal rubric, which has the criteria for each question. And Emma's put the link in the chat there. And it'll show for each question what we're looking for and how reviewers will score it. Like, what does it mean? They're scoring on a scale from 1 to 10. So 1 to 2 means this, 3 to 4 means that, 5 to 6 means that for each criteria. So I encourage you to look at the rubric when you're answering each question and think about how you can get to that column that is for scoring a 10. Like it says, what aspects of the criteria, how they would be looked at in order to score a 10. So I think that's super important. Thank you, Emma, for bringing that up. I need to add that up actually to the beginning of my presentation. Very quickly, anything else? Emma, Vander, can you think of anything else I should share? We have all kinds of videos and documents and stuff on our website, almost too much, but not, because if you see something that you're like having questions about, like just the budget or how to fill out the grant commitment form or something, look around. There's definitely like videos, how to do your budget, or stuff like that. So I would be definitely take a gander at our website and see if you can find the answers to your questions. And Emma, in one of the responses to a question, did touch a little bit on what happens if your project is funded. So you start with your idea, you meet with your farmer partners, develop your project, you read the call for proposals, you prepare all your answers, and then you go to submit it. And then if it's awarded, you have your proposal will be in your contract as your plan of work, and you can follow that. Like, the reason why we ask for so much in the way of the proposal is so that by the time it comes to your project, you don't have a lot to think about. You can just do it. You can follow your proposal, like almost like you're cookbooking it. So we encourage you to really be thoughtful and detailed in your proposal. And then you just need to, if you're awarded, you just need to complete your project. You'll have to file an annual and a final report, and you'll also have to send in your invoices or have your team send in your invoices. And so if you have further questions, please feel free to contact me directly at any time or come back next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.